All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We have an insightful panel discussion today. This is our first peer-to-peer panel, which will be a series that we're doing throughout this year with various topics. And today's topic is how to grow your business through subagents and what that subagent partnership can look like. So we have 3 wonderful ICs in our network that all have various backgrounds that we are going to speak to today. We're going to be able to ask them some questions. Then you can ask them some questions as well. So I'd like to thank our panelists. We have Chris, Sylvia, and David today. And they're going to be those ICs that are sharing with us about how they've grown their business through subagents and having that be a part of their business plan. So I'm going to start off by just having them introduce themselves. We'll just have you share your name, your business name, and then maybe the size of your team, how many subagents you have. So Chris, let's take it away. Can you go ahead and start?
You bet. My name is Chris Allen. I'm with Alpine Lakes Travel, and I have 3 subagents.
And Sylvia?
My name is Sylvia Conine. I'm with Mill Creek Travel, and I have 7 subagents.
And David?
And David with Blair Travel, and I have 9 subagents.
Excellent. All right. So the first topic we're going to cover today is going to be from just a few quick best business practices from the 1,000-mile perspective. So just a couple things we want you to consider. This panel today is really for those of you that are interested in potentially adding to your business by, as a primary, adding subagents, but it also could be maybe if you're thinking of becoming a subagent yourself. And so a few important considerations would be, number one, that if you're a subagent, you still have contractual obligations from a 1,000-mile perspective. So you want to make sure that you are listing your affiliation with us, you're booking under our credentials, and you'd want to make sure that a contract that you have between a primary and a subagent is going to cover things like that affiliation requirement, as well as things like what our timeline is for properly recording bookings in our system. So that would be Tramada, as well as the process for claiming any unclaimed commissions. So those are just some of the basics, and then I'm going to let the experts speak to the rest of the details, the what, the why, the how. And so we're going to start off by the value of subagent partnerships. So our first question is, what made you decide to add subagents to your business? And Sylvia, I'm going to start with you.
Well, I was in Costa Rica with Gwen Correa. We were talking about things business-wise, and I told her I had referred a couple of people to Montrose because it was Montrose back then. And she goes, well, why didn't you put them as subagents? And I said, what's that? And so she explained it to me, and that just kind of opened up my eyes to that. And then next time somebody had asked me, I asked, which was Chris actually, and I said, do you want to start out being a subagent and see if you want to do this business? And she said yes, and that's how I started getting subagents. It's just, if they're interested, you can offer that to them and tell them the benefits of being a subagent.
Thanks. David?
Yeah, so mine started probably 2 years into the business, 3 years into the business. I was getting a lot of requests for Disney and didn't have the knowledge of Disney. And one of my clients, who's a cousin, her daughter, who's another cousin of mine, is a Disney expert and was planning Walt Disney World vacation for free for her friends and family. And I didn't want to do Disney, so I offered her to come over as a sub-agent and do my Disney bookings and get those requests for me. And that's kind of how that process started. I started to grow the business with additional agents by meeting people online through Facebook groups and stuff like that. That just were with agencies where they didn't feel they were getting the support they needed, and were looking to me, and I was getting a lot of questions and answers regarding policies, procedures, how to be an agent, stuff like that. And they finally whittled me down into joining my team because I didn't want additional team members at the time. But it became more of a mutual beneficial thing where they needed the primary to help them out, and then they joined my team. So that's how I got into this.
Wonderful. And Chris?
I had a client who was an amazing traveler, but when she had to book a group of 20, she didn't know how to do it. So she came to me for that. Actually, her brother was my client and referred her to me. And then after she got home from traveling with me, she started asking me, how do I do it? And so that's how it's just people that have asked, are interested and asked, and I am invited them to join. And then I know the ones I don't invite to join also, but we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Definitely. All right. So the next question is, what have been some of the top advantages for you of working with sub agents? And we'll go back to you, Chris.
I love the ability to watch somebody learn and grow and be able to understand to do what they love, which is travel. And it's fun to watch them as they progress and start to learn more. And you watch your knowledge, you're able to help them, and you suddenly realize how much more you didn't know you knew, but you do know a whole lot more than you realize as you help somebody that's a newbie start in on the process.
Sylvia.
Kind of similar to what Chris said. There's advantage because we also work together. Somebody will find something great, and we have a Facebook page just for Mill Creek Travel. And so they'll like, hey, I found this. If there's 25% commission if you book this month, and we'll help each other out. Or if somebody has a question, and we'll do meetings together. And as they're learning, it's fun to watch them grow. And they're getting excited about it. And they're saying, hey, I saw this. And like, well, I didn't know that. So you're learning from them too.
David.
I'd say for me, just helping free up some of my business, focusing on things that I want to do. So those referrals have been really great to be able to have off the sub agents. And then just developing a true sense of community within the 10 of us. Like Sylvia has that Facebook, we have a Slack channel. So we can always just hit each other back and forth in Slack channels, really nice and easy. And it creates like a really good sense of community within the 10 of us to just help build and grow our business together and, celebrate our wins and, all those good things. That's kind of like our own little family, just the 10 of us.
All right. And then, what do you feel is the biggest benefit for the sub agents? So from that other perspective, why would someone become a sub agent with you? And Sylvia, let's start with you.
Well, for them, it's a good place to start a business, or if they don't want to work where they need to feel like they want to hit the 100,000 in commissions or something like that. They want to keep it maybe small or they're newbies. And it's a way for them to learn. They have somebody to call when they have questions. They get a feel for the business. It's not a big expense for them at that, to be a sub agent. And they don't have to do a lot of other things like in our state, the licensing and things like that. So it takes a lot off their plate, but then they get to learn a lot and they have somebody that can help them mentor them.
Chris.
I would definitely say mentorship is a great option. I know that I spend about an hour a week with each of my sub agents just to answer any questions they have and make sure they, and it's fun to be able to introduce them to the next step and what they can learn next. And so I think it's a great way to have a mentor that will walk you through the steps. And as Sylvia said, they don't have to set up the full business. And a lot of people don't, setting up a business is scary. And so if you take that off the table, it allows them to jump in and get their feet wet without having to do everything when they first start.
And David.
So I would say for me, my setup's a little bit different because I only take experienced agents. I don't take new people, but I take people who are wanting to get their business to next and to help grow their business. And I think that's where their advantage of coming to me is that real one-on-one coaching. Not only do they have access to Joanna on an account manager standpoint, but they have access to me on a travel advisor standpoint where I really grow my business through connections and relationships and helping teach and train these agents, these connections, relationships. And then at the same time, when they're talking to our BDMs and stuff, my name carries a lot of weight with our BDMs and connections that I've made through Virtuoso or IOTM or ALT Ascent, all those things. I have a great network of connections. They mentioned that they're on my team and they go to the front of the line with these suppliers because they know that they're part of Flair Travel.
Excellent. All right, so moving on, we're going to talk through a little bit about the recruiting and the vetting, so how you find the right sub-agent for your business. So what are some things that maybe you are or are not looking for when you select a sub-agent to partner with? And David, how about you kick us off on this one?
Awesome. So again, mine, like I said, a little bit different. That I'm only looking for qualified agents. I kind of have a minimum sales goal of 100,000 a year to start. And what I tell them is, if you want to be that $1 million agent, I'll take you from 100 to $1 million, 10 times your business through what I've done in my own, and really having that conversation of looking for motivated agents. Debbie Johnson, I think you're on. You need to mute yourself. If you can. I have some feedback from you. And then I would say, where was I at? Just that vetting process is mostly everybody that's come to me has been through referrals of other agents. Like Scott referred a bunch of people, and then some of those people referred other agents to me, knowing my business practices, what my business is all about, and how they can help grow their business to that next level by being part of me. And so that's what I really want. Is I want those agents who are focused on growing their business and taking it to next. And that's kind of my vetting.
Okay. And Sylvia.
My agents, usually if somebody's asked me about it and we'll talk, and I kind of feel like you can tell people they're motivated. Maybe they've been planning vacations for their family, their friends, and they want to figure out how to get into the business. They didn't know they could do this from home. So I'll get some of those agents, and sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, whether they're going to be successful or not. And some of it, you just go by personalities, if you think you could work together well, and if you see potential in them.
And Chris.
I try to find out if they are trying to make it a hobby or if they're making it a business. If they're making it a hobby, then it's hard because they're not trying to, that's great if they want to make their hobby, but I don't want hobbyists. I want somebody that it doesn't have to be a full-time business, but I want it to be a focus of theirs and something that's important to them. So I try to, and you can kind of figure that out pretty quick when if which direction they're going.
Excellent. And then what about, oh yeah, go ahead.
One of the other things that I'm looking for in like my next, I think 10 is a great number. I don't want more than, I've said 10 is kind of my cap, 9, 10 is kind of my cap. So anybody else that I'm looking to join my team is filling that niche that I don't have. Like if somebody is an expert in Southeast Asia, that would be somebody who I want to bring on board because I don't have that in my own team or within myself. So I think as I've grown it to this point now, being more selective of who comes on board to really fill gaps so that we're a complete agency and those referrals can really go out.
Excellent. All right. So moving over into kind of contractual considerations. So this is a partnership. It's got to be a win-win, right? So what are some maybe key elements that you think are really essential to have in a contract that ensures that it's a mutual benefit? So it's good for you and it's good for them. And let's see, how about Sylvia, you kick it off.
Well, actually, I got my sub-agent contract from David. He was kind enough to let me see his, and then I sent it to my attorney because Washington has very strange laws. And I actually try to keep it simple in the beginning, and then as I got more agents, I noticed I needed to tweak it a little bit more. I was trying to keep it simple and just do a flat rate for everybody. And then I've noticed with getting more sub-agents, some of them were a lot more work. So I've actually changed it up a little bit where I do more of a tiered commission as they get better. I give them more, but if they're new, I'm going to maybe keep a little bit more because it is going to take a lot more time. But originally I thought, they're just on there, they want to come in, just, take off and do this. And it hasn't been that way. So I've just learned through the process of changing the contract a little bit for my newer sub agents and make sure it covers all the Washington state laws because we have a lot of unique laws here in Washington. So just to have a good lawyer look at it too.
Got it. David, how about you?
I'd say the biggest thing is setting clear expectations so there isn't that gray area. Having those honest conversations up front, making sure that conversation is in the writing so that they can pull back. And getting any uncomfortableness out of the way. And just kind of lay out to them what's expected of them, what's expected of you, and just holding up your end of it. I know one of the biggest things I hear in this industry from sub agents or even agents, and why I've got some of mine, is paying your people on time. And I think that's been a mantra about mile travel and M travel, Montrose travel back in the day. Debbie used to say that all the time, just pay the agents on time. And I think for us as primaries, sub-agents, developing that trust with them of making sure you pay your agents on time and having that expectation in their contract. And like for my agents, like for example, this is they're paid on the 20th, where we're paid on the 15th. I give myself 5 days to do the additional money. But if I have free time, I usually have them paid by the 16th. So those kind of things are really important. And then back to Sylvia with the contract that I gave her, mine was I took it from the 1,000-mile contract and just kind of developed it for myself and being a primary, and just kind of changed the legal wording around on it. But then also saw areas where I could improve and offer areas for bonuses for my clients or for my agents. So I have different things in there where they can earn additional commission and payments and bonuses based on hitting training targets, hitting volume targets, getting certifications. And then we've even done things with supplier events where we'll host a supplier event, and then for the following month, I'll add bonus commission for booking with those suppliers as a reward for those suppliers.
All right, Chris, to you.
I got my contract through Tom Carpenter, who is a attorney is a travel attorney, and he's part of ASTA. And so I like that because whenever new changes come out, like the ones that just happened with American Airlines or with us having to do refunds, he will send me an update saying, add this to your terms and conditions, add this to your contract for your subagents. And so I love that I have an attorney who knows what he's doing, and I can pass off that responsibility to him for that. Other than that, I love the fact that when I start with my subagents, I tell them to start with the end in mind. Where do you want to end up? Do you want to be with me forever, or do you want to go on your own someday? And have that, just so that conversation is there to begin with, so there's never a question on what their goal is and what my goal is. And then that's part of the contract. So, and we have those in terms, and we can change things, but they just know that up front, we're both looking forwards. We're not just staying at this point in time.
Excellent. All right, so then how about with nurturing kind of that ongoing relationship, that partnership? So what strategies, or what are some of the strategies that you use to build and maintain strong relationships with your subagents? And Chris, let's have you start this one off.
Well, I would say my most is that I do the weekly calls with them, just the mentoring sessions. Mine don't live anywhere near me, so it's not like we could get together and spend time one-on-one. But through the Zoom calls and the mentoring sessions, we're able to, I know where they are. I know what's going on with them. We do use travel. I have all my subagents use Travel Joy, so I can jump in and see all the things they're working on, and I can help cover for them. They can cover for, I can allow them to see mine if they need to cover for me. And so we use that as, and we're just a sounding board. Like both Sylvia and David said, you need a sounding boards. And so you're constantly saying, who to use for this, who to use for this, just to get, so that everybody is on the same page and we're not all going down our own rabbit holes when somebody already knows that area.
Excellent. Sylvia.
One thing we do Zoom meetings sometimes, and another thing we have one meeting with Dana, our accounts manager, this Friday, where we're going to talk about Virtuoso Week and let them know if they haven't been, what it's entail. Other thing is we've done Sell into Knowledge, and I had 3 of my subagents come, so just encourage them to do, all the things that they can go to: Virtuoso, Sell into Knowledge, 1,000-mile Mexico. I couldn't go, but 2 of my subagents were able to go, so that was great. And those things are just such great learning things and motivations, and just keep them motivated. Let them know I'm here. If they want to text, call. I have a couple of them in the state, and then I have in a couple other states too. So like Chris, and I do set up once in a while. I'll set up something with like Suzanne from Travel Guard. She came on and we did a small little group, just so they don't feel like they're in this big conference and they can ask lots of questions. And so I have set that up. And ALG is, we might do something with them too. So they do have their own business. They're 1099s. They're not obligated to come to anything. I don't obligate them to do anything. This is an invitation because they are independent. They're not employees of mine.
Great. And David.
I'd say biggest way to build relationships with them is being available. Again, hearing in the industry, I hear a lot, I can never get in touch with my host. I can never get in touch with my primary. And that's the one thing that I always want to be, is be available for my agents when they have questions, like not 24/7, but they know that they can get in touch with me. And I think having the Slack channel has really helped with our team communication. I think that's one of the best ways that we built the relationship. And delivering on promises and being there for them, being there as a coach and a mentor, and showing positive results. When I got an influx of people about 8 months ago, we had a team meeting in Denver. So I think that was built some of the best relationships because we were all there together in Denver. There was 8 of us there. And we had suppliers come in and sponsor it. We had team events. We got to spend time with Ben and Nick. And I think those kind of things, showing them that they're part of something bigger that they never got to see before, is definitely something that helps build those relationships and just keeps them engaged with myself and within the Flair Travel family and the 1,000 Mile Travel.
So David, we're getting a little bit of background noise. I don't know if you have any flexibility with your mic or not. I know we've got some challenges today, but we'll do our best. Okay.
I'll see if I can adjust my earpieces any.
All right. Chris.
I think I already answered the question.
Oh,
We were
I'm
talking
sorry.
about
I
strategies,
apologize.
right?
Yes. So
yeah.
then
I was like,
kind of shifting then for success of the partnership. So how do you measure the success of the partnership, and like how often maybe do you evaluate that?
Do you want me to go?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I called on
No
you
worries.
before I asked the question. I reversed it. There you go.
I will say I am the newest, obviously, between Sylvia, David, and I, and that I've had one for a year and a half. I've had one for a year, and I've had one for 2 months. So I would say I'm still in the beginning. So I think that Sylvia and David would do a much better job of answering this one. I mean, I work with them, and I haven't ever had one not stay. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, fair enough. Sylvia.
Just the once a year, just go have a chat and see how things are going, if they're happy, if they need to change anything, if they have any problems. But success of mine is when you see somebody take off and do well, like Chris took off, did well. If any of my sub agents do great and leave, I feel that's a success. My little birds flew the nest and they're doing great on their own. And that's great too, if they want to go off on their own and their business is growing and they want it to grow. I think that's a success too.
Excellent. David.
So I'm a numbers person and I came from a sales background. So I measure success in our numbers. We track our sales monthly. Joanna, you often get some of my reports. They haven't been great the last couple of months because I've been busy. But we look at our monthly sales. We look at who's in the top, who's in the bottom, who's growing their sales, who's not moving, and really try and motivate each other through our successful sales. When people get large groups or they have big businesses or big sales, we celebrate those as a group. And I think that's the biggest part of our success, is celebrating our volume together as a team and showing what we can do together as a team. When we were in Denver, one of the things we talked about was knowing your numbers and knowing your business. Because there's sometimes people who just don't know what kind of sales they're doing, what kind of, and most of them had never tracked their sales or didn't know what kind of business they were doing and how they can project and see year-over-year growth. And I think that's the biggest thing that we look at to measure success is our business continuing to grow.
Excellent. So we have one more topic of planned questions, but I wanted to have everybody get ready. If you have questions you would like to ask the panel, you can put those in the chat and we will cover those. Or if you feel comfortable, you can take yourself off mute in just a few moments and ask your question, but just giving you a heads up there. Okay, so our last topic has to do with maybe some challenges or some unique opportunities that you've seen come up. So, are there any common challenges or opportunities that you've encountered in your history of working with sub agents? And Chris, let's have you start this one.
I would say the challenges are the ones who are in it for the perks. And that's what they're looking for, and that's why they want to do it. And so it's kind of a challenge to let them know that this isn't what travel is about. And this is not, I mean, this isn't what I want to have as under my name, is just somebody who's going out trying to get perks. But then they usually figure out pretty quick that there's no free fam trips, and nobody sends you on a fam unless you're actually building your business. There's great opportunities of being able to work together. There's great opportunities to be able to fill groups using both of you guys selling into the same group on a cruise if you want to do it that way. There's great opportunities in the ability to understand their expertise, and be able to help that with your own business also. And it's nice to have somebody to work with, so you're not feeling like you're kind of in the I see a lone vacuum. I'm out there building everything on my own, having somebody to connect with.
Sylvia, how about you?
Some of the challenges with some of the subs would be failure to launch. So, I have one that I just had so much, I just thought he'd be amazing. He came, we had a lunch, and I thought, oh, this guy is going to just take off and do great. He's got amazing connections, and nothing's happened. And he wanted me to handhold, which I did. I said, do A, B, and C, and never happened. And now, now he's kind of like, oh, I think I'm going to go to cooking school instead. So I think he's just not focused. And you saw that potential, how great he could be. And I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be amazing. I was super excited, and that happens sometimes. Some people start slower, take a while to get going, and that's fine too. I understand there's a lot to learn. And others just go. I have one sub agent. She hasn't even figured out Tramada, and she already has $6,000 in commission waiting for her to claim them. Whoops, I messed up my computer.
All right. And David, to you.
I would say, taking on experienced agents who, may have been a little bit slower to start. I'd say the biggest challenge is like breaking old habits or the old tapes that they play, that this is the way that we used to do things, or, suppliers that they used to use and things like that, and getting them on board with the way that Virtuoso is, that Thousand Mile is, the way that Flair Travel is, and getting them onto our thing. And while they're ICs, they have some freedom there, but this is what you signed up to be with me. So this is how we do things. I'd say those were, some challenges, but those are just good learning opportunities. And the other things I'd say personal challenges is watching them make the same mistakes you've made, because you can't teach them everything. You can't brain dump your last 8 years of business into them, and they don't know what they don't know. And when they'll make the same mistake that you made once, you're like, oh man, I wish I would have told you that because I did that before.
All right. So last question from me, and then we'll open it up. So what steps, this is a little bit of a loaded question, but what steps do you take to ensure that both you, your business, your sub-agents can adapt to maybe industry changes or staying competitive? I know, David, you touched on that a tiny bit with, looking at current preferred suppliers, but back to you, David. So how do you adapt to industry changes and remain competitive for you and your team?
I'd say for myself, staying on top of the conferences, going to as many conferences as I can, staying in touch with suppliers, seeing what they're seeing on their side, having a great relationship with the other agents from Thousand Mile Travel. And just, this is an ever-changing business. And when you're in sales, you've got to know how to adapt and pivot. I mean, we did it 4 years ago. We did it 2 years ago. We're doing it today. And I think that's the biggest part of this business, is it's always changing. And you just got to make sure that you stay up on the changes. You can't do things the way that we always did them. I think that came from 20 years of sales, when you'd get a manager in your store and they'd say, well, that's how we always used to do it. It's like, well, that's not how we do it today. And that's how you can keep up with it and remaining competitive. I think offering your clients and teaching your sub-agents how to offer clients what their value add is. And I think too many sub-agents come on board being order takers. and changing their mind from being an order taker to a travel advisor and showing what the value add is. And that's a big part of my business, and to remain competitive as to what sets me apart is what do I add to this equation when I'm booking a trip for the client and not just be an order taker.
Great. And Chris?
Couple things. One of them is I know same thing I had to learn that I'm trying to teach my subagents to learn is that you are no longer booking like you used to travel. You are now booking differently. And that is what sets you apart. And so I think trying to keep that as a forefront, especially like David was talking about, breaking the old habits of how did I do it before, whether it's you were just a traveler or you're a travel advisor, or you have to change so that you can actually add value. And another thing that I have done is that I try to spend time looking forward planning. Too easy. It's just, you just get caught up with what's in your inbox and you just start going to work right away. And so I really try to focus for me and for my subagents to spend 15 minutes a day looking forward, thinking, where am I trying to go? How am I going to get there? What it's going to take me to get there? And then doing 15 minutes of training every day, just because you can never understand everything. You can never know everywhere, and things change all the time. So if we're taking time to focus on forward thinking and training, it will keep those changes in forefront in our mind.
Excellent. Sylvia?
We kind of said it all. I do encourage them to do lots many trainings, and I actually gave them a few of them the challenge to do one training a day. There's a lot of little 15-minute, 30-minute trainings. If you do one a day, try to go to conferences and try to network. Networking is important either at conferences or online. Just networking, it works really well. Another thing that I've kind of start talking about doing groups. Groups are very profitable. You're doing the work once and you're getting paid. And one of my subagents just hadn't been doing much, and she just did a great group too on Ammo Waterways, and that was just very motivating for her, motivating for the rest of us too. Like, plan those out. You don't have to wait for the business to call. You could just plan things out and start inviting people. She did that, and she hadn't been doing much, and that really helped motivate her. So maybe come up with ideas for them, how to keep them motivated between connections, and think outside the box, and not sell to what you would do or to your pocket, but to their pocket.
Wonderful. Great. Okay, so before we get into the questions coming in through the chat, I think there was a few people that joined late that maybe didn't hear your guys' introductions, or it wasn't super clear. So when we get to this first question, if you could just remind us how many subagents you have, or a little bit of background on you. I know some of you started as a subagent, and we'll just hit on that one more time. And then the question is, do each of you prefer new agents or established agents? And let's go ahead and start with Sylvia.
I have mostly new. I don't know. There's some advantage of that because then you can kind of train them the way you would like. Give them your perspective on travel. Teach them, they don't come with old bad habits. So most of mine are new. I do have a couple that have done it before, and it's kind of nice because sometimes they just take off and they don't really need too much of your time. So I do both. Right now I have mostly new agents though. Most of mine are new.
And how many do you have in total?
Well, 8 technically, but really 7 that are working.
Okay. And Chris?
So I have been selling travel since 2019. Great time to start selling travel. I started actually as one of Sylvia's subagents. Best thing ever for me was COVID, because I stopped booking travel like I knew how to travel and spent time learning. Learned about on-sites, DMCs, all the benefits that you get from using a travel advisor. And I have been out on my own for 2 years, I think. And I have 3 subagents.
Excellent. And David?
Sorry, I had to mute there. I have 9 subagents, and for me, it's I want experienced agents because I want to teach them airport codes or basic lingo or how to use fax. So I want them to come with some experience, but I want to get them to next.
All right. Okay, so then question about tracking sales. So are any of you using Tremata reports? What reports do you use the most, or do you track that outside on your own systems? David, let's start with you because I know you're the reports person.
Yes. So Joanna has tried to show me Tremata reports. I just don't understand them. As an ambassador, that's very bad of me, but I don't understand Tremata reports at all. They don't work in the way that my mind works, and maybe one day we'll get them. And I think it comes down to two things. One, old habits. I've been tracking my sales since the beginning for 8 years, so I know how my sales work that way. And then two, when Tremata launched a year and a half ago, there were no numbers, and they tried to show us how to run reports against numbers. And so my brain just shut down. It's like, I don't understand how this works because there's no numbers. So one day when I have time, I'll sit down and try and understand Tremata reports. So I don't use them, but I use the Virtuoso reports a lot, which are fantastic. And home office knows me and my Virtuoso reports, and I am always reporting discrepancies or if something's wrong, or it's how I catch if things got reported wrong in Tremata. So my Virtuoso reports are like my lifeblood. And just before this call, it was all over my Virtuoso reports. I can't see my sub-agent sales in Virtuosos, so it's only my own. So that's why I have an Excel tracker to track my sub-agent reports.
I'm going to hold you to that, David. We're going to have a one-on-one. We're going to go over reports. And there is just a shameless plug, but there is a new training on Tremata reports that was posted just a couple weeks ago. Dana did a great job. You can check that on the hub if you do want to dive deeper into what reporting is available. Sylvia, how about you?
Excel spreadsheet too. I got to learn the Tremata reports too. So I do have an Excel spreadsheet, and I keep, each individual, and then I have a cumulative. And I haven't really shared my total sales, but now David's giving me a good idea. I send them their report that I get, their Tremata report, and then I track it on Excel, but I haven't sent them all like what we're doing as a group. That I think that's a great idea. Might steal that from you, David.
Chris,
Yeah,
how
I'm
about you?
I'm very transparent with my sales with them. So like,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't.
I don't tell them that.
Yeah, I'm sure
I
they're
don't tell them my
interested too.
commission. Yeah, I don't tell them my commission, but you can figure that out, 10 to 12%.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah, great.
To you, Chris.
I use TravelJoy, and so I can jump in at any point in time and look at my client, my sub-agents, what they've done for the last 12 months. I can pull any numbers I need through there. And so I am not your Tremata enthusiast either. But I found that TravelJoy allows me to go back for we've been using it for a number of years, pre-Tremata even. So I do have all my pre-data from before the switch to Tremata. So it's hard to give up that data.
All right. So another question for the group. So this has to do with your operating names. So do you allow your sub-agents to have their own company names, or do they operate under your brand? Sylvia, how about you?
I allow them to operate under their brand, and it just costs me like $5 a year to do a DBA for their own. And I only have one person that's doing a DBA under their own name. But the rest, I offer them Mill Creek, or if they want to keep their own name. And most of them, since they are new, didn't have a name anyway, so that worked out.
Chris, how about you?
Two of mine have their own name. One uses Alpine Lakes.
And David.
So one of my sub-agents is actually a employee of mine, and she uses Flair Travel for her branding. Everybody else uses their own brand because I'm very protective of my brand. So I don't want other agents being on the Flair Travel brand, but they have that in their signature and everything like that. And then they are allowed to use the Flair Travel email if they want, so they can get that brand recognition with suppliers and customers and stuff. But they have to operate under their own brand.
Great. All right. So then a few different questions coming in kind of with logistics. So I can answer the piece about the 1099. So we issue 1099s to primaries, and then primaries are responsible for issuing 1099s if they apply to their sub-agents. And then just a question about kind of rate consideration. So what are the things that you're thinking of when you're determining what that commission split is? What are the kind of thought process you have around that? Does it vary? Sylvia, to you.
It does vary depending how. Well, at one time it didn't vary. I was doing just small percentage because it was just easy. And then as I got more sub-agents and it's more work, I decided to do a variance. As they get better, they'll get more commission. As they, longer they work and the more commissions, they'll have to hit a certain amount before they get the full commission.
And Chris?
Mine is the same at this point because I just have newbies. And at some point it will most likely change, but at this point it hasn't changed. I just do a flat, they get a percentage of what I get.
And David?
So mine's really easy. It's 80, 10, 10, 80 to them, 10 to 1,000 Mile, 10 to me. And that's why I have the minimums on them. Because I figure if they're selling 100,000, that's 10,000 in commission, and I'm getting 10% of that, so that's $1,000 a year to me. So that's a pretty big, $1,000 is worth my time to get out of bed and help them. And so that's why I just have a flat 80, 10, 10. But like I said, there are opportunities for them to earn bonuses. I'm really big on CLIA, so like if they complete CLIA training, they're CLIA certified, they can get bonuses through CLIA. There's certain sales bonuses and stuff like that, especially when we do supplier training and that. So, but 80, 10, 10 is the flat. And I just want to go really quick back as a plug for the 1099s. I use QuickBooks for all of my accounting, and all of my sub-agents are recorded in their QuickBooks. So at the end of the year, it is literally 2 clicks in QuickBooks, and it sends them their 1099 for $2.50 each. So they all get their 1099s from me in January, 2 clicks on this.
Excellent. All right. We do have a couple more questions in the chat, but I did want to pause in case there was anyone that wanted to take themselves off mute to ask a question. If you've been holding on to your question, feel free to reach out.
I have a question.
Oh.
This is Debbie Hodges.
Go ahead, Debbie.
When I was paying my sub-agents, well, when I'm anybody else in Holland Travel, I'm actually a sub-agent because really Mike owns Holland Travel, but we kind of mirrored it along the lines of what the old commission structure was, where the more knowledgeable somebody gets, the more commission they earn. And but I don't know, what's everybody doing now on this commission? Are you guys keeping it like you had it, or are you changing it to the new commission structure?
I'm keeping mine at my 80, 10, 80, 10, 10, and I split mine on their commission. So if they're bringing $1,000 in commission and I get paid 900, I'm not splitting that 900. I go back to that 1,000. So again, it's 80, 10, 10. So 1,000 Mile keeps $100. I keep $100. They get $800.
Okay.
I mostly do it the same as David, unless they're new, then I do 20%. For me, 10, they're at 70% if they're new.
What about you, Chris?
I haven't changed mine because I do 10 to 1,000 Mile, 10 to me, and then they get they actually get 81, 82, 81% because
Yeah, it's a little bit more.
And I just divide what I get from 1,000 Mile and give them 10 and keep 10% of that for me.
And then I know David has shared he has a minimum sales that he looks for in order to take on a sub-agent. But for Sylvia and Chris, do either of you have minimum earning requirements or minimum sales requirements when you take on a sub-agent?
Not minimum, but if they want to get to the full split, then they need to make 10,000 in a year in commission. And once they hit the 10,000 when they're new, then they'll go up to the 80% for them and 10 for 1,000, 10 for me.
How about you, Chris?
And I don't have a minimum. I just have learned to vet them to make sure that they actually want to sell and not just get perks. So they need to be somebody who wants to be selling, not just somebody who has always looked for the best deal for them and wants to get a better deal by getting commission off of what they're buying for themselves.
Excellent. Anyone else want to ask their question off of mute before we go back to the chat? Okay. So one of the other questions we have is, where are you finding your sub agents? How are you finding your sub agents historically? And Chris, we'll go to you.
Well, since I'm the least experienced when I have the least, one of them was a client of mine that needed help because she was doing a big group. And once she found out that you could do it from home, kind of my same thing when I found out you could do this from home and it could be a real business, she was interested and started talking to me. So I helped her. Another one is actually one of my assistants who has been helping. He's been my assistant for about the past 6 months or so, and realized that when she talks about travel to people, she has connections that she would like to be able to start learning, and which has actually made her an incredible agent, because she's been helping me and kind of knows she's my I have two assistants. One is the creative and one is the detail, and she's been my detail person. So she goes through my itineraries, through my invoices, through everything, all the trip documents, to make sure everything's in place and is right. And so training her to become an agent now has made it a lot easier than somebody who knew nothing, because she already knows half the back. She doesn't know Tramada. She doesn't know this booking and suppliers, but she understands how a trip is put together because she's been watching that for the last 6 months with me. So from that point, it's been great to be able to transition her. She's still my assistant, and I beg her never to leave me as my assistant, but she has the background. So her is just like the natural progression for her to go from being an assistant to actually being able to do some sales and make some commissions for herself.
Sylvia.
Three of my sub-agents came from M Travel or 1000 when they changed the structure. So I have three from there. I mostly they've come to me and asked. I have one that I ran into some friends in that Sydney Opera House tour, and they were doing a tour similar to the one I was doing. And my husband said, "Well, who set it up?" And he pointed, "Oh, our friend set it up." So then actually my husband talked to her and said, "Oh, you should be doing this. You did this great tour." So now she works with me too. But mostly they've come to me and asked, and then I talk to them about the business and see if it's something they're really interested in, and if it's something that will fit for both of us.
David.
So one was my cousin, and then the other one found me through Facebook groups, and that's how he got started. And then he referred everybody else. And then one actually read an article that was out that my name got mentioned in it, and she read that article and reached out to me and wanted to talk to me about being under me, because she was really interested in getting into this business. And she actually left a franchise agency that she had because she wasn't getting the support, and felt that she could get the support better than being a franchise owner.
All right. So then a question about the cost of being a sub agent. Are you guys absorbing the cost for your sub agent, or is that something that you're passing that fee back to them? Can you talk a little bit about that, Sylvia?
The new fee, you mean the $50 a month? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, what you've done historically, or what you plan to
Okay.
do in the future?
They've all paid their own fees with 1000 Mile, and it's if there's somebody that's not producing and they're in it for hobby, they're not going to want to be paying that fee probably. So it's kind of a good way. We also split the E&O insurance between the group. It's not very much per year, and I do pay for their emails since I'm the state licensing and things like that in our state. And so it's in the contract what you want to pay, what what they're going to pay, and they know that up front. We just have that conversation up front.
Excellent. And Chris?
They pay the fees to 1000 Mile Travel Group. I pay for their travel Joy subscription, and then I also use a itinerary called We2, and I pay for that because it's one for everybody. And so I pay those two things, and then they pay everything else after that. Just because I want consistency, then I can see what they're doing and they can see what I'm doing. And the itinerary program we use allows us to use each other's itineraries and jump in and make copies and things like that. So it makes it kind of a database of itineraries. And so for that sense, since I'm paying it, I cover that for them also because I want them using that.
David.
So the annual fee, so for my employee, I was covering hers because she's an employee. My sub agents, they were paying their own. And I still haven't gotten a clear answer with this new $50 a month. If they're going to get charged, we're going to get charged, how that's going to work. But if it comes from us, then it's just going to get deducted from the commission monthly. So, and if they don't have $50 commission, they'll need to send it to me. But that's kind of my plan. No, I'm not covering any of their fees. As far as insurance goes, I'm a Berkshire Hathaway, and Berkshire Hathaway will not cover them if they're not operating under Flair Travel. So they're required to get their own E&O. And then anything else, yeah, they're on their own for any fees, travel coordinator, that's their business, that's their.
All right. I can actually answer one of the questions that came through. It asked, has Thousand Mile always had sub-agents, or is this something new? This is not something new. We've had this model in place for quite some time, quite a number of years. So, yep, not something new, but definitely seen a greater interest in people who want to grow their business by adding sub-agents, or people interested in becoming sub-agents. Okay, so last question I see in the chat. What benefits do your agents receive through you? Do they get invoicing? Do they get insurance? I see we've tackled insurance a little bit. We just talked about E&O insurance. But what other benefits? So David, let's start with you.
I'd say my biggest benefit is my knowledge. I know this industry inside and out, and my connections within the industry. And my name carries weight with suppliers, and so if they say that they're part of my team, they get moved to the front of the list. There's a huge benefit of being with me, and then I'm getting agents who are new to Virtuoso, so that's a huge benefit for them, for their clients, and then being part of the 1,000 Mile group is really huge to them, and then lower cost structure for them as well. So $50 a month versus $120 a month. When they're under $1 million, I think it's still getting good value to them. And my goal is for them to be with me 5 years and no more, and that they should be on their own within 5 years. And then I have one other benefit, but I'll come back to that because I forgot the other benefit.
You're fading out. I couldn't hear the end.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, there.
I'm inside a Starbucks, so I'm trying to not yell and have everybody at Starbucks hear my conversation.
You're going to get people signing up to be your sub-agent just because they're overhearing this presentation. Chris, how about you?
I think it's the mentoring. When I started, I knew nothing. All I knew how was to travel, right? And so going from being an avid traveler to being a travel advisor it's not a jump, it's a bridge. There's a lot and there's a mind shift change. And so I think being a sub agent, it helps if you're new, understand how to become an advisor, not just a traveler. And I think also the camaraderie, the ability to not have to take on the entire chunk of having your own business by becoming a sub agent. And I think the other thing is that none of us have talked about this, and it just popped in my mind, is it's really important to let your sub agents know that this is a long haul. It's not I'm going to jump in and next month I'm going to be making $5,000 a month. I'm going to be making $10,000 next year. You work your butt off, and nobody understands that isn't a travel advisor. And so if you have somebody new that's coming into the business and they think this is going to be easy, I'm going to get all this great stuff. I think part of being a sub agent is having your IC tell you this is a reality, and when my sub agent in her first year did 150,000 sales and she thought it was bad, I'm like, no, that is amazing. You need to realize what a great achievement that is. This is not easy. It's not easy to find your clients from scratch, right? And so I think being a sub agent, you have somebody who's been there, who's done it, and can tell you, hey, you're doing awesome, or here's some other ways. But I think the reality of jumping into this business, nobody understands it, and it's somebody there to help you understand what it's really going to take to succeed.
Sylvia.
Like what Chris said, and on top of that, if you want to be a business owner, low cost way to become a business owner with a potential that's never ending potential of income, as long as you're willing to work. What other business can you set up for that minimal amount of money and have this great potential? And Virtuoso, you have 1,000 Mile, you have accounts manager, you've got your all these different things that can help you. So it's just such a opportunity for such a low price to make this amazing business for yourself.
Excellent. Well, with our last
other thing.
Yes,
I
go
remember
ahead,
my other
David.
thing. And the thing there is the invoicing. So I am on invoicing with 1,000 Mile Travel, so which helps with the Tramata. So myself and my agents can send in our invoices to home office, and our Tramata gets processed through them, which is a great investment in your business. So and they're part of that invoicing as well. So they get that invoicing. So agents, when they came on, the learning curve for Tramata was really quick because all they had to learn was how to put a client in. They didn't have to learn the next steps because home office does that for them, being on the invoicing program.
Excellent. All right, so we are wrapping up. Thank you so much to our participants. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you for all of the questions that came in. If something was asked that sparked your interest, maybe you want to talk about it more, I would just encourage you to reach out to your account manager. If you're interested in maybe growing your business by adding subagents, or maybe you're thinking about making the move to become a subagent, talk to your account managers. Some of the things that they're going to want to know from you is what you're looking for. You know, what is the reason why you're making that step or considering that step? And then we can also help connect you to potential subagents or connect subagents with primaries. So some of the things I know I will usually ask is, you know, are you looking for someone that sells the same type of travel as you or something different? Someone in the same time zone, someone that's local to you, or does that matter or not? Are you looking for a mentor? Are you looking for something hands-off? Do you want to keep your own business name, or are you looking to come onto an established brand? So those are all important things to think about if you're thinking about making that plunge. But definitely talk to your account manager. You can talk to another IC as well. The people that were on this panel today are excellent knowledge bases, and I know they would be happy to answer any questions if something comes up later. You can find them on the hub. And they would be able to be responsive to you that way. You can send messages through that platform. But thank you everyone so much for attending today. We will be putting this recording up on the hub for future reference. If you need to find it, it will be under our education section on the hub. So thank you everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you to Chris, Sylvia, and David. We appreciate you.